Hey everybody, how's it going? I hope you're having a great Friday. We're back. It's spooky season, and I thought we'd have a nice live stream to get us into the holiday spirit, talking about the scariest thing that I could think of, which is enterprise change management and major migrations of data. Keeps me up at night. How's it going, Andy and Mark?
Doing well, doing
Good to
well.
see you
That
guys.
was a
Here we go. I'm
pretty
gonna
good
get our
little intro
screens out
there.
of the way here. Yeah, do you like that? I thought about having like a flashlight and like turning my lights off and telling like a scary ghost story of like migrating all kinds of stuff. I thought about having like a flashlight and like turning my lights off. Oh, I hear myself. If one of you guys have the window open to the live stream, close it. I don't hear myself anymore. All right, we got 45 people watching now, at least from YouTube. So if you're in the chat, let us know where you're watching from, and that way we'll know that like the comments are working, the chat's going here. We got Phil here as always. Thanks for joining us, dude. It was so much fun. We had a watch party. What was it? 2 weeks now since Ignite happened, and me, Daryl Webster, Phil, and Andy were all hanging out for the couple days. Had like a 24/7, Teams meeting going that we could like watch the sessions together and hang out and talk about, the peanut gallery basically. So that was a lot of
That
fun. It
was
was good to hang out with you, man.
that was definitely one of the more fun virtual conference experiences that I've had over the last couple of years. I had a blast during that live viewing party. So big shout out to Daryl for putting it together and for everybody for hanging out. Had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really good time. We got Pete here. He was here early, giving us a little wave there. Yeah, so like we've got people, San Jose, California is here, Montreal. Let's see, Ohio, Washington. Oh, Phil's in the UK this weekend. Jim McFarlane, my buddy from Cerner, is with us today. Minneapolis. That's pretty close to you, isn't it, Mark? Aren't you up like northern Midwest, right?
Yeah, I'm from the Chicago area, so outside
The Chicago
suburbs of
area. Okay.
Chicago.
Awesome.
So while we're diving in and saying hello to everyone, we should say hello
Yeah.
to our special guest here today. This is Mark. He is coming here from the SharePoint team and SharePoint team, the stream team. I guess
Stream team.
SharePoint on the brain because I've been dealing with SharePoint sites all day. No, he's here from the stream team. It's actually cool how this came together. John and I were talking about some ideas, and internally between the two of us, we were like, we should reach out to Mark and see if he wants to participate in a live stream because we're going to talk about stream. And like not more than 10 minutes later, he actually like pinged one of us and was like, hey, can I join you guys and like, participate in the stream? And we're like, heck yeah. So welcome, Mark, to the live stream here today.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
I
man,
saw
you
you guys
saved
on
us a
Twitter
DM.
talking about what you were going to talk, that you were going to do this topic, and I'm like, hey, I
Yeah.
want to make sure that I'm there and I can help answer questions and deep dive with you.
Yeah, we appreciate it. So the way that we do this is it's pretty free flowing. We've got a topic that we loosely talk about. We've got some slides today to kind of keep us on track a little bit, keep us moving, because there's a lot of content to talk about with this one. But we certainly like want to move in whatever direction you guys want as the audience or the chat. So as we go along, if you've got questions or you've got like, hey, what does that button do? Or hey, how does this thing work? Throw it in the chat and we'll talk about it live. Or we'll at least start it so we can get back to it a little bit later. But yeah, we're gonna hang out and talk about everything and anything stream, classic, new stream on SharePoint, migrating between the two, talk a little bit about strategy, stuff like that. I think it's gonna be really fun. So awesome. Let me turn the chat overlay off and let me bring up our slides. So Andy, we were talking about starting out. We've got to pick up where we left off last month, which is, if you guys remember, a month ago we left you with some Ignite updates of like what predictions we had. Wild guess before we got any kind of briefings or anything. We we both like came up with some predictions for what Ignite was going to bring. I want to recap that and talk about what we got right, what we got wrong, and then we'll dive into all the stream goodness. So does that sound pretty good? Oh, I guess I could have shown the agenda first. We'll talk about predictions, and then we wanted to go into first defining what is stream on SharePoint. How's it different from Classic? What are some of the benefits and the differences, the nuances around that? I wanted to go into the big announcements around stream at Ignite were that it's hit general availability. So a lot of features that were kind of teased in previous Microsoft events are actually live now. So we wanted to show some of those things. The new web recorder, some of the new things like adding chapters to videos, generating transcripts, some of those cool new buttons that we just got access to around Ignite. And then we'll dive into the migration, talking about strategies that both of us are using, in the real world, and some of the attributes that, as we find out more information about our Classic environments, that are leading us to how we're going to do our migrations. Talk with you guys about how you're planning on doing your migrations from Classic to SharePoint. And then we're going to ask Mark to share with us the roadmap that he shared in his Ignite video, and talk about like what's coming, what can we expect, near term and long term for Microsoft Stream. So without further ado, let's jump on in and start with the Ignite predictions. So I'll go first through these. I had 3 predictions at Ignite last month, and I pretty much missed all, like almost all the way on these. So you'll remember that I thought Mesh was going to be a big part of Ignite, and it was a pretty big announcement. And I was predicting that, like, I thought we would see avatars. I thought that avatars would go public preview, and I think I was predicting that they'd go public preview in November, and that we'd see them like by the end of the year. I predicted that we wouldn't see anything about immersive meetings or the drop-in rooms that were announced at Build. And I pretty much got all of those correct, I think, with the difference that if you were watching Ignite, the avatars that were announced for Microsoft Mesh in Teams, they're starting to come out, but they're in private preview. So if you're in the Technology Adoption Program or the TAP program for Microsoft Teams, you have access to those avatars now. If you're in public preview or waiting for GA, we're going to be waiting a little bit longer. I would predict probably around the first of the year, we might see more access to those avatars. But if you're in the TAP program, you can go nuts now and have avatars. I've been playing with it a lot myself. Clipchamp. So I thought we were going to see a lot more about Clipchamp at Ignite. And my prediction was that it was going to be detailed. I predicted that like some of it would be included, some of it would be a new SKU or some type of premium. I think I said in the prediction that my prediction is that we would see like those stock assets, like stock videos, stock images, would come as like a premium add-on. You wouldn't get it in your licensing. Unfortunately, we didn't hear hardly anything about Clipchamp. So maybe next year, Mark, maybe next year we'll get a little preview, see some cool demos of like editing video in 365 and how that's all going to be native.
It's a lot of work to take some consumer product that we have like Clipchamp and rebuild it for M365 and in the enterprise. And so that's taken a bit longer than I think everyone would hope. But yeah, I'm hoping next year Ignite, tons and tons of Clipchamp stuff is there.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see a lot of that, kind of make it full circle, give people even more motivation to get over to stream on SharePoint so they can do like awesome video editing tricks. And then my last Ignite prediction was webinars V2. So there was a blog post that I mentioned back in July, actually, previewing some of the webinar V2 stuff that like, hey, we were going to have more robust registration options in Microsoft Teams webinars. We would see some different like attendee reports and more enhanced like speaker bios, stuff like that. And those things were like briefly mentioned, but in the context of a larger package called Teams Premium. So if you haven't watched some of the keynotes about Microsoft Teams from like Jeff Teeper, Nicole, Jared, those folks that kind of do like the modern work keynotes, and then one specifically on Teams. They show some previews of what the webinars are going to be. Those are going to be, unfortunately, in my opinion, in this new premium SKU that we'll get more details about as it goes into preview. I believe Microsoft said in December is when it will be previewed for a hopeful general availability in like early in the year. I think they said February or March timeframe. So I kind of missed on all of these things. I thought we were going to get a lot of like deep details, demos, things like that. And we didn't really see a whole lot other than the mesh avatars. So Andy, what was your predictions from last month?
So first I was going to talk about Viva, but then the Viva event went live a couple week before we did our live stream, and they announced everything Viva. So I had to pivot off of that because I didn't think there would be anything else that they would announce related to Viva. And lo and behold, they had more announcements for more Viva. So there was a ton there, but I didn't concentrate any of my predictions on that. My main predictions were built around number one, the avatars, much like you. So I'm actually looking at the transcript from the previous recording now, just to remember what I said. And I said, I don't know if they're going to go full 3D, like immersive in that space, but I thought it would be cool if they would have a way to have avatars in Teams meetings with a way to express yourself. And I think I got that one right, and I didn't know about that, ahead of time. So I was pretty psyched to see the avatars make an appearance, and so I'm going to count that one as a win. And I'm really excited to get in there and actually start working with those and being able to use those inside of meetings. Had a use case of that actually this morning. Colleague joined in a meeting, and I had my camera on, and they're like, "Oh, you don't want me to put on my camera? It's Friday, I'm looking kind of rough." And I'm like, "There's a thing coming for that very soon. It's called avatars, and that's the perfect use case for it." So avatars was one of the main ones. And I mentioned that I'd like to see them kind of go more emoji-like or memoji, kind of like Apple does. And I think they got some of that functionality in there. Like you can see the lips moving, and then you have different ways to express yourself. I thought that was kind of cool. So there was definitely some things I wasn't expecting with that. So I'm excited about the avatars. Got that one. I'm going to chalk that one up in the win column. Let's see. Next up, more Teams and SharePoint integration. There wasn't a whole lot announced around SharePoint specifically. There was some SharePoint-like things, but it was kind of rolled into some other features. I'm really trying to remember if there were any major announcements.
Were you talking about like page building or something, like more like web part options or something?
That's a good question.
I couldn't remember what it was about.
Yeah. Like one of my long-term ask is for the ability to bring and pin SharePoint pages into a team and have it as the landing page. So like when I visit the team in the general channel, that's the first thing that pops up instead of like the post or the conversation. That's been a long-term one for me. So I might have mentioned that one previously. That was not announced. That'd be kind of cool if we got that functionality. So I'm still holding off for that. I have noticed, though, that there is more integration, like a document library is almost the full UI inside of Teams, which is really nice. So like I can do a lot of what I need to do directly from like Teams without having to leave, like the ability to add columns now. Like that's pretty awesome. But I don't know if that was an announcement there. So I think that was a swing and a miss from me on that one. And then the other was more and more video. More video features, and again,
this is such a softball prediction.
No prior knowledge of
given
this.
That our whole live stream is about this.
The stream team really knocked it out of the park with some of the things that they announced. It was a plethora of announcements from multiple YouTube videos to a few different stream blogs. And there's so much content that it's taken me a couple of weeks to actually get through a lot of it, and like being able to play with it because it went GA that week was pretty awesome. And like you were saying, this is a pretty good little softball and segue into today's live stream. So we're really happy to have Marc here to help us to deep dive into a lot of these video features that were announced and that are now available, and you can take advantage of today, which is pretty cool. But I'm also curious to see what's on the roadmap and like what's coming. So I'm all for the continued video integration into the Microsoft world. I think there's a lot there, but I think there's a lot of room to continue to grow. So I think it's gonna be really fun to see where it goes.
Yeah. So the chat is blowing up. Lots of talk about live events and talks about emoji or avatars. So I did want to show before we go on to the next slide the avatars. We got permission like just Wednesday that they were like, okay, this is private preview. You can show your avatar, but you can't show how it's built or like the options in a meeting, things like that. So I was just going to show off my avatar because I can. That like I built my avatar, and what I like about it is that you can have up to 3 avatars so far. So I've got like my normal day-to-day avatar, and then I've got my casual Friday layout. So you can change up the clothing, and I've got like a little squid hat on and all that. So I can't go into the customize button just yet, but maybe in a future episode here when it hits public preview, then we could deep dive into like how the avatars work and all that cool stuff. And then the chat is going nuts about like, hey, this isn't on, we're not live streaming on stream. Technically, we're using a platform called Restream, and it actually works with Stream Classic RTMP because I've done like live events through to Yammer, and it can send to that as a destination. But as you know, we wouldn't be able to host like a Yammer live event and have all of you be able to watch. So we're on those major public platforms like LinkedIn, YouTube, stuff like that. And Marc's been like feverishly answering these questions that like it's going to a team story over in the new stream. And Michael was posting in there that he sees it in public preview, but that Teams RTMP encoder is in public preview now. So one of the guys to follow in that space is a guy by the name of Aaron Steele. So if you look him up on LinkedIn, or I think his Twitter account is Baked Steel, Steele. He's one of the product guys for that feature. So he'd be the guy that I would like keep an eye on to make more announcements about live streaming in the new stream. So anything to add to that, Marc, about the live streaming capabilities?
Yeah, no, like Stream Classic powered the RTMP, RTMPS ingest into Yammer and into Teams. And Teams rebuilt that feature directly with our team's help. And so that, as you said, is in public preview, I believe now. And so that's going to be the replacement for Stream Classic. So eventually Stream Classic won't be using or won't be part of live events. We'll just handle all the video on demand part of it. And then Yammer plus Teams will be where you'll do all of your live streaming. And then obviously the recording of that will come to SharePoint, and that's where then all the features that you'll see today kind of take over.
Yeah, and I can attest, I've got the preview as well, and it does work really well. Like Michael was saying in the chat, it's been really good. Okay, so moving into the actual topic of the day. First, let's talk about like what is Stream, and I put on SharePoint. Marc, I really like that you got like literally in parentheses on SharePoint. My guess is, and tell me if I'm wrong here, my guess is that eventually it's just going to be Stream again, right? After we kind of get through a transition period, it's just going to be this is Microsoft Stream. It's not qualified with on SharePoint or Classic. Is that kind of where we're headed with this?
For sure. That's where we're headed. We wanted to have a way to identify the old thing and the new thing. And we kind of went through a bunch of names, and I threw out like Stream on SharePoint or Stream built on SharePoint. In hindsight, maybe we should have went with a modern versus classic, but I really wanted people to know that this is going to be backed in using all of the SharePoint framework. And so all the compliance capabilities, search and APIs and all the things that you get from files being stored in SharePoint and OneDrive, you'll get now for video files. And so that's why we have that little qualifier. But yes, for sure, we won't call it on SharePoint forever. Eventually we'll drop that once we can shut down Stream Classic. classic.
Yeah. Yet in the chat, they've got us here and OneDrive. So put 2 parentheses around here for like nested things. But
doesn't everyone know that OneDrive is just SharePoint? That
is SharePoint? Yeah, right.
Like, it's the
Just
same
look
thing.
at your URL. It says SharePoint right there in the URL. So stream on SharePoint is, guess what? It's stream on SharePoint and on OneDrive. That's the backing platform for the video storage. And as Mark was kind of mentioning, and as he mentioned in their Ignite session, it opens up a ton of flexibility, because now we can leverage the entire mature platform of SharePoint Online to create these like really rich video portals and hubs. We can feature videos in a lot more ways than just like, a list of videos that are files, or something like that. It's not like a document library. You can really like adjust how you show these with like conditional formatting, stuff like that. Yeah, I saw Daryl post like, why not call it Viva Stream? I missed my opportunity. I was going to say that our topic today was on Viva Video. I mean, Microsoft Stream on SharePoint. Is that on the roadmap, Mark, to change it to Viva Video?
No, I hope not.
No.
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe next Ignite, we'll see. Clipchamp and Viva Video. Too many.
I can tell you, like, from our application and trying to simplify this for like our end users, we're just calling it New Stream. Like, we got
Stream.
Classic Stream is what we're calling the Classic Stream portal, and for our users to keep things as simple as possible, we're just calling it New Stream. And New Stream lives in SharePoint with all your other files and all your other content. And that's the message that we've been delivering with it. I don't know, going back to when we started using it back in the spring, I believe. So for us and our user base, it's just New Stream.
Yeah. No, I've been calling it Stream 2.0 for like a year and a half, right? So that's going to be really hard for me to switch from Stream 2.0 to Stream on SharePoint. But at my organization, we're trying to do the Stream on SharePoint branding now that it was like called that at Ignite. That way we can just point to the Microsoft documentation and say, here's how it works. Here's the source of truth. And it's like named the same thing. So I like to use Microsoft's names wherever possible so that I don't have to like recreate a bunch of things. But Stream 2.0 is what it will always be, that in my heart. But so yeah, Stream on SharePoint, it's your video files for the storage, but it allows for a lot of like enterprise capabilities. The way that we present things is really robust, but also we get all of that compliance, retention, sensitivity labeling, all that stuff that's built into SharePoint already. You get to inherit that for your videos now by having your videos be just another file type in that structure. They become like a first-class citizen with all those other Office document types. So I think that's going to be really nice. But from an end user perspective, from a creator perspective, I think us admins and adoption people are going to have a little bit of an uphill battle to convince people like it's not just going to be a folder full of files and that kind of ugly, you're not trading your stream channels for Windows Explorer, right? So there's going to be a little bit of like show and tell that we have to do, and that's on a lot of the admins and the adoption teams to really like give examples, and hopefully this live stream will help with some of that. We've built some cool things that we want to show off. So yeah, Bandy is saying they're calling it Modern Stream. I like that. It's like modern SharePoint. Because I talked to somebody just the other day in communications at my organization, and they were like, I was showing a portal that I made, and she was like, is this modern SharePoint? I was like, oh yeah, this is actually all off the shelf stuff. And like the biggest sigh of relief, like, oh, thank goodness, I'm not going to have to like do JSON formatting or something like that to get what I was showing and what we'll show you guys today. So, and Mark, you've got some slides here about kind of like where we were and where we're headed. You want to go through those?
Yeah, this was in our Ignite session, but I just wanted to do a really quick version of this now, just because it is such a conflict point with a lot of people.
Mhm.
Enterprise video on its own kind of was always siloed, and that's what Stream Classic was. Even though we made our attempt to say that it was part of M365, it was had
Mhm.
its own storage and it had no connection. So if you go ahead to the next slide here,
Yeah.
you can see that it had its own UX, it had its own processing, it had its own storage. This is where you put. If you go ahead and hit next again,
Yeah.
it was not connected to M365. The only way that it was connected, this is hardware. Go ahead, hit next. Boop. um,
Yeah.
uh,
Right. We need PowerPoint live in Restream.
Totally. The
Yeah.
only way that it was really connected was embed codes and links, right? Like you could embed
Mhm.
stuff in other places and you could link it, but like from everything else, it wasn't connected. And we
Mhm.
tried for several years banging our head against the wall saying like, how can we make e-discovery work? How can we get ourselves to like good APIs that can be there?
Mhm.
But all those things were sitting on the other side in M365 for every other file, but not videos because videos had to be in Stream Classic. So if you go ahead and
Yeah.
advance a couple of slides here, it really like we had a decent amount of usage, but like it's really hard to
Mhm.
drive traffic as a adoption person in your organization to a dedicated location like Stream Classic. And so then you had siloed management and all that sort of stuff. But now
Mhm.
what we're doing, if you advance the slides again, like
Yep.
Stream is really 100% part of M365 from the ground up, from the storage
Mhm.
layer on up. We're saying videos are just files in M365 in OneDrive and SharePoint and Teams and in Yammer, the same place you store other files. Now your video is there, and you get all of those capabilities around exact same UX, like comments look and act and feel the same. Search,
Mhm.
Microsoft Search just works. Intelligence and data processing and management. And we spent a ton of time directly in the playback layer. So like videos are playing directly from the SharePoint backend. They had a service in there that was already playing videos. And where SharePoint only had 1 or 2 devs invested in that, we flooded like 30 engineers. And we're like, we're going to go improve this. We're going to make it amazing and make video playback work directly from the SharePoint and OneDrive backend. And then
Mhm.
that gave us all the governance, all the permissions, all the lifecycle, all the APIs. And so that's really the path that we're on. And if you're not using Stream Classic, but your organization has like an enterprise video solution, you have the same problem. Like it's a siloed destination and videos are not part of your rest of M365.
Yeah.
You can skip the rest of the slides. Was just kind of
Yeah.
advancing through.
Yeah. And like that makes a lot of sense for us as a, you know, admin perspective, SharePoint minded. I remember when we first talked about this, like in the internal group, it was the SharePoint folks really got it and we're like, oh, great, because we know retention, we know compliance, we know like the controls. And then the video, you could almost tell like what orgs had separate stream admins from SharePoint admins. Because like those organizations are like, I don't get it. I don't want to be a SharePoint guy. I don't want to learn SharePoint. So it's been a little bit of a journey to kind of get behind that messaging. I thought this was a really good statistic from your Ignite session, is that like when I made the announcement, or when we made the announcement internally, we got some pushback. And what I've heard from content creators is that like, you know, I've built out this wonderful channel and I've got to go to SharePoint and create this other one. And I think a lot of people don't realize that the way that people are getting to their videos today and historically have been because you're emailing them to somebody, or you're posting them on Yammer, or you're putting them in a Teams chat. And according to Microsoft's statistics, 83% of like the way people get to videos is by clicking on one of those links or viewing it like in an intranet page where it's an embedded iframe, something like that. You might think people are like just waiting on your classic channel for the latest upload. They're just like refreshing all the time, but they're not, and there's statistics to kind of back that up. They're like, hey, don't worry about it. We've got templates and we're going to show you a more modern way to present your videos. But, you know, try to be a little bit realistic in that people weren't just like a YouTube channel where they were subscribed and they were getting notified for new videos and all that. That just kind of wasn't really the reality with classic channels. So
yeah, that 83% number is basically like a direct link. You got sent a link, or you had a video embedded, or you had like a channel embedded in your intranet or into some other location. And so like that's a massive amount of traffic of how that people were going to it. And then 12% is if we lump every other page in Stream Classic, like the group page, the channel page, the search page, the everything else, that's 12% of the traffic. And then the last 5% is like people actually going to the home page of Stream Classic, like the entry that is the top of the portal. And so you can see that like people are really either going to direct content baked into the existing content they have in their intranet and finding the videos there, or they had a little destination that was kind of a group, but people were not really, navigating through this, browsing through, finding the portal in the way that they were before. And so, that's kind of what it is. And Bandy was saying, this is generalized. Yes, this is aggregate across all customers, but we have run it for individual customers as well. And like the numbers are roughly the same. We don't have a way for you to run it yourself for your organization, but I bet you it's going to be really, really close for most organizations.
Yeah. So I like having statistics, even if they're generalized. It helps like lead a conversation. I was talking to a couple of podcasters earlier this week or last week, and we brought that stat up, and they were like, now that I think of it, like our viewership really exploded when we started promoting it on Yammer. Like when we started like putting it in front of where people are, that's when we got traffic. So it kind of defused a little bit of we don't understand how this is going to work. We're kind of stressed about it, to like, well, actually this is probably the behavior, and we understand that about you. We understand what you need as a creator. Let's go on this journey together, IT and the creator. And I think that's going to be a better story moving forward with a lot of the users that we've got. So
there's another question in the chat about does that 5% going to the YouTube portal homepage of Stream Classic, is that like kind of a waste of time to rebuild it? We kind of believe that if you think you want to go rebuild like a single video destination in your organization, you could do that, and you can do it really easily with SharePoint web parts and with your intranet and your portal. But we don't think you're going to drive a lot of traffic to it. Like traffic is going to get driven through these videos showing up where people are doing their work. If they're navigating on their intranet, they're sending direct links. It's going to show up in the Viva feed eventually, as more people kind of adopt that sort of stuff. We don't think driving traffic to a single entry point is really going to be valuable.
And if you want that, though, I'll bring this on screen, and Andy will probably drop this in the chat. We've got it in our show notes. There are guided walkthroughs for creating that, like that 5%. I need a portal that's called, what was your example here? It's called Contoso TV, right? And it's like all video, single point of entry. There's a beautiful guide written by none other than Marc about how to create that kind of like all-in-one experience. So definitely check that out from the link that I'll put it in the description of this video as well if you're watching this later on YouTube. But the example that I'll show of this is going through that walkthrough. And the example they showed was creating a hub site. So you've got all these different SharePoint sites, associate them to a video portal hub, and then they'll roll up into this kind of umbrella site. But as Marc said, like that's only 5% of the traffic according to their numbers and how actually people behave with enterprise video. So
yeah, and it might be more valuable to like pull top like important videos into the intranet homepage, right? Or have a section from your intranet homepage that lists off and says, here's some trending videos in the organization. And you can do all that with the web parts. Like those guides are really not like, you don't have to follow those verbatim. They're really just meant to be an inspiration so that you can kind of come up with your own ideas. Because again, this is SharePoint, and so you kind of can, make this be how you want it to be. And we are, there's another comment about like, well, what about templates and that sort of thing? We are still looking at maybe having, I wouldn't say like a single video portal template, but maybe a video centric site where you could make a site that mostly has videos in it. And so we are still investigating that. I know we've been saying the template stuff for a while, but it's still ongoing. So we'll hopefully sometime next year, we'll have something like that.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that a little bit in the migration strategy slide. Like what some other organizations are doing is creating these templates themselves. And at least like an idea that I have is creating some examples or like some recipes for this, like these guided walkthroughs, and at least publishing like a lookbook or a recipe guide or something like that. Here's a beautiful video page of like a live event recap or a channel, a podcast, whatever, and like pointing to it as a diagram. Here's this web part, exactly how it's configured. Here's this web part, here's how we did it, to kind of like give you a breakdown to do it yourself. Or if you're a SharePoint administrator, you've got SharePoint buy-in from your SharePoint team, you could create these pages yourselves, save them as templates, and you could deploy an actual template internal that has all of your corporate branding and all of that cool stuff with those highlighted content web parts, where they basically just point it to where the videos are and it fills everything in. There's options there for creating it yourself if you want to have control of your branding and everything like that too. So, gosh, I got to find out where these comments are so I can hide them when we're done talking about it. It's going so fast. So to get to demo here and talk about using Stream on SharePoint, we wanted to talk about some like examples of what like the new uploader looks like, the organization constructs, and when should we do sites versus document libraries versus folders to organize our videos, as well as show like what that new player experience looks like. And then if you're on Twitter, Andy teased this a little bit, but the new video recorder, the web recording experience, and show some of the new goodies that they get from, you said powered by Flipgrid, right? Or the technology behind some of the recent acquisitions to be able to do things like background replacement. Some of the things we've enjoyed in Teams are now coming to that web recorder experience, which is really cool. So let's jump right in here, I guess. And, you know, I don't have a video handy. Let me see if I can find a video real quick to upload, and we'll show what it looks like to actually throw a video in our environment here. So there we go. Okay, so let's say that I've got some videos here, and this is one that I actually just recorded recently that's how to put on a VR headset, and I want to upload that to Microsoft Stream and present it in a SharePoint site. And if you go now to, what is it, stream.office.com, or if your organization is flipped to the new Stream, then the tile would go to stream.office.com. You'll notice that you've got the ability to just drag and drop right on this page, like you could do with your OneDrive or your other SharePoint document libraries. If you like to have an upload button, that's actually right here on the right-hand corner. Is you can click upload to get to that uploader, go find your file right there. So I've got this file. I'm going to drop it in that little file picker, and we'll go ahead and upload that. And that's going to upload this file in this little pop-out window here.
And we know the feedback that like through office.com, it by default uploads to your OneDrive, and that's not what everyone would want all the time. So we are looking at, could we have a picker? So like you upload your file, and then do I want to go to my recent SharePoint site or to my Teams team? And so we're looking at how we could do that as well. Unfortunately, that's just the way that office.com has worked since it's existed, is that it defaults you to OneDrive. They didn't want to have extra friction and ask people questions, but we know that that's a pain point where not all your videos should go to your OneDrive. They should go directly into a specific SharePoint site. But one of the cool things that we launched right at Ignite is that when the player, when this finishes uploading and the player pops up, we also have like the move and copy buttons directly on the player as well. So you could just move it directly into a SharePoint site if that's what you needed as well.
Yeah. So that's uploading in the background. And as Mark said, it's going to go to my OneDrive. And that's the same construct as like if you were in Stream Classic, like got the classic Stream right here, and you went and you uploaded a video, it's going to do the same thing. Like I found in my organization, as we looked at our usage statistics and like what actually is in our Stream environment, the vast majority are individual videos where they uploaded a video, they sent a link to the video, but like they continue just by themselves. They were kind of self-hosting, And that's the same thing as putting it in your OneDrive and a link to it today. So the most common use cases are going to be that upload, just take the default, I grab a link and I email it to whoever I was going to send it to. When you get more into like, I need to curate my videos, at least what I did in the classic stream is I would go into the channel like Teams Tip Tuesday, and then I would drag it onto here and it would automatically associate that video file to that Office 365 group, to that channel. And that was just my own workload. In SharePoint, that would be the equivalent of going to like your adoption page, right? Going to that folder and dragging the file into it to store it on that SharePoint. So at least for my workload, that's like the same type of thing as I would go to the destination and then put the video file there. Some people like you might have gone through, uploaded the video under like this button, and then you would manually add the group and click the button to make it an owner. And I always felt like that was too many clicks. So I kind of go to the destination and then upload, so it's in the right spot. So
yeah, and I mean that's like another like thing that is different about Stream for Stream Classic versus Stream on SharePoint. Stream Classic, it was that destination. You had to do it through all that organization, but now we're saying upload the videos directly to your Teams team, to the Files tab. Upload them directly to your Yammer and Viva Engage community. Upload them directly to your SharePoint site that you have for other files. And so like it's much more in the flow of your work in that sense, that you don't have to be taught a new thing. So users don't have to go to the stream start page to start. They can just upload videos where they are and grab links and send them on.
Yeah, and that's what I can do right here. So this uploaded how to wear a VR headset. It's in Megan Bowen's files. That's the OneDrive that this is logged in as. And as you said, if all you're going to do is just upload it and just fling a file over to somebody, you can just click the share button. You can copy a link right here. It's those same OneDrive options that we have for if it was a slide deck or a Word document. I can get in here and I can say everybody in Contoso. I can give specific people access, make it public. I can choose whether or not they can edit that file, change things about it, or make it view only. I can also block download of that video so they can watch it, but they can't download it specifically. And I can set an expiration date. So these are all things that we didn't have the ability to set like an expiration date or a password to watch the video in Stream Classic, right? It was just like, well, I shared it with the whole company, but I didn't put a password on it. So hopefully people just don't find it, right? With this, you can password protect it. You can control the download options, things like that. Then we can hit apply. We can copy that link. I could paste that in to the chat if I wanted to, and you guys would be able to watch this how to wear a VR headset, because I made this everybody in the world could watch this video. So that's another benefit of Stream on SharePoint, is now we have the mechanism, if your organization allows it. Some orgs don't allow anyone with a link, but if your organization allows that top level option, you can have truly public videos that are stored in your Office 365 environment. And there's no like friction to somebody being able to watch that video, even anonymously. So
yeah, I'll add that the public anonymous stuff was a big improvement. Like people were asking for something like that from Stream Classic.
Yeah.
Because videos are just files in SharePoint and OneDrive, you have that capability now. I'll just give a warning. It's not meant for like viral sharing, right? Like it's small scale sharing with a small set of users. SharePoint will aggressively throttle that. And so like if you had 150,000 people watching it at the same time, they're going to have a bad experience. But for a small scale handful of people watching it, sending to a vendor, or a vendor sending you a video or something like that, really it works perfectly.
Yeah, so it's not going to be the next TikTok, right? So let's open up this video and take a look at the new player experience. I think is probably the next logical place to go. Is like, I've uploaded my video, it's in my OneDrive, I could just send it to somebody. That's great. But what if I wanted to, do a little bit of like curating, make it look a little bit more beautiful, right? It's just like this pre-made thumbnail. I don't really like that. Maybe I want to replace it. All of those settings are in a switch right here on the side. So this is that new stream playback experience, your Viva video viewer. So if we go in here into video settings, there's all these switches and capabilities that I can turn on. So the first thing that I usually like to do is go and upload a thumbnail. So I personally use Canva for this. When the Microsoft Designer comes out, I think a lot of use cases would be to work in Designer, or today you could go into PowerPoint. You've got a 16:9 window right there. Create a nice looking thumbnail with some text, take some of those YouTube things. If it's a picture of a person, like, oh, wow, with like open mouth, you might get a little bit better click through rate, stuff like that. But you can create your thumbnail, and then you can upload any thumbnail from your computer and save that. I also see that there's an edit button right here. So I can go anywhere in this this timeline and select that frame. I thought that was a really nice improvement over Classic, because the Classic version, it gave you what, 3 or 4 frames, and then you could upload a custom one if you wanted to. And we had in my previous employer, we had some time where an executive, they uploaded it, it chose a frame of them like looking really weird, like they were in pain or something. And that was the thumbnail. And then they sent it out to like 20,000 people, and then like hours later, I get a panicked email from somebody in comms like, oh my gosh, it picked this weird spot. How do I change it? And then I'd have to go help them. But with this, you can pick anywhere along the line. So I didn't really like that kind of out of focus, me wearing the headset, but I like this because it's like I'm holding the headset front and center. It's in focus. So I'm going to select that frame. And now I've changed my thumbnail to be something that's a little bit more acceptable without having to go create it. Again, when Microsoft Designer comes out, I'm hoping that like a lot of people will probably start making their thumbnails in a cool tool like that. Today, I personally use Canva for all my YouTube videos. Another switch that we can flip it down here is the caption and transcript option. So if I want to generate a transcript based off of this, and I recorded using this nice microphone, so I've actually done this in the past, and it was like 100% accurate. But the way we do that is we click generate, and then we're going to select from, what is it here, Mark? Like 40 different languages, probably?
I think it's 28 different
28. Yeah, 28 languages. What is the spoken language in the video? This was English, United States, about as central to the US as you can get. So I've got that. I'm going to generate that transcript, and then we'll let that hang out in the background, and it will maybe we'll come back and it'll be available. But for me, usually it can take like upwards of an hour or two. So we may not be able to finish it within this live stream here. But that's working in the background. If you've got like a curated, like you took, what is it, an SRT file, a caption file, and you've got your timings and your nice edited, here's what was said when, you can also upload a transcript and have that be like your captioning track as well. Mark, is there options yet for like multi-language support on a video for like, I've got a Spanish track?
Yeah, we don't auto translate, but you can have, if you downloaded the auto generated one, you could translate it yourself and then upload those. And then those show up as closed captions or subtitles on the video. You could pick it, and then it'll actually show up in the transcript pane. So like if someone wanted to read the Spanish transcript, they could do that as well. That's an addition that we didn't have that in Stream Classic. We only show them as subtitles on the video.
Awesome. That's pretty cool. So you'll have to look into that, and it'll be like an actual another caption track on the video. I know a lot of larger organizations, especially like my old organization, had a whole global translations team, so like it probably wouldn't be that much overhead for them to do like a German version of a provided transcript that was provided to them in English.
Yeah. And for organizations that are producing these kind of more, videos from the CEO or something like that, not on the roadmap yet, but we're working on audio descriptions. So that's an accessibility feature where you can actually have audio descriptions where the user can switch from the normal person speaking to someone who dubbed over, like describing what was happening. And we're going to build that audio descriptions in a way that you could actually do dubbing yourself. If you had the time and effort to make those extra audio tracks, you could then also have additional audio tracks show up on the video.
Oh, that's pretty nice. That'd be really cool, especially for like those explainer type videos. One of my favorite features of New Stream is chapters. I was talking to somebody internally again who like makes video that's consumed by a ton of people. And the way they were doing chapters in Classic Stream is they would have the description, and you could put a little trick basically where you could put timestamps and then what that was. So you'd have like 00 to 030. This is the intro. 031 to 1 minute and 26 seconds. That's this announcement. And you could like put that in the description. It would put a link to it that would jump to that place in the timeline. Well, with Stream 2.0 or Stream on SharePoint, chapters is its own first party feature. It's like more native to the playback experience. So in video settings, you turn this on, it's a switch, and it gives you this new button right here called, not comments, called chapters. When we click on that, rather than having to like do timestamps manually in the description, you have this nice interface. Like this is way better than the experience in YouTube. YouTube's kind of like that hacky way of doing it where I've got to like put it in the description. I've got to format it correctly. With this, in my opinion, it's way more accessible to say like at 30 seconds in, like if I change this to like 30 seconds, it's like, you know, how to adjust the head strap, right? And then I go ahead and I do that. I can add another chapter up here at the top, and I could say how to not look like a fool with goggles on your face.
And John, you don't
maybe
even
I
have to
talked
type
about
in,
that.
you don't
Do
even have
what?
to type the time code. You can just click on the timeline.
Oh,
So
you can just
jump to a
select it
different-
down here.
Yep, right to
and
the
then it
Oh, like a
changes the
minute
time.
45. Oh, that's nice. So yeah, I could kind of like scrub the video and say like at 2 minutes and 20 seconds, this is where I got real serious about like how not to look stupid. Click the new chapter, put a title in there for the chapter, and then add it. And I've got another one right here. Click a little bit further, you know, wrap up, and hit that. And you'll notice it's really hard to see in this like shared screen, but you notice like these little gaps. There's spacers now. So kind of like how YouTube works, you actually have this visual reminder on the timeline that there are chapters and there's segments in this video. I feel like that's a lot better than people having to know. If I go check the description, there might be some timestamps. I might have a table of contents. One, you get this visual indicator, and two, the chapter selector goes along the side for the person. It's not what they call below the fold. You know, you don't have to scroll past the video to pick another chapter and then scroll up to watch it. It's nice side by side type of layouts. I love this type of UI for chapters. What's under here? Oh, this is cool. I haven't seen this yet. If you click the dots next to the new chapter button, you can delete all of them, or you can copy a list of the chapters to your clipboard. If you like went through and added like 18 chapters, collect them all up with a single click of a button.
And everyone in the chat is going to say that they want those to be linkable so that when they copy it, then they can link to each of those
deep link.
sections. Doesn't do that. It's just plain text at this point, but we are working
that'd be
on
cool.
Adding the ability for chapter by chapter. You could just grab a little share link to that specific time code. Like we already support sending a link at a specific time code, but there'll be a new button coming that'll so we can do it today from the share bot dialog, but we're going to add a little share button on each chapter. So you could be like, oh, actually the thing I was talking about was in this section of the video, and you can then send someone a link to that in particular.
Yeah, that's super nice to show that thing that Mark mentioned about a video at a specific time. Say that I'm at like, 1 minute in. If I click share, I can do copy link at current time. So then I can do that. And if I edit this, I have people existing access, anyone, I can make all those edits. And then I get a specific time to, you see the URL, start time in seconds. And then it's like at 60 seconds right there. So, yeah, that's how you do like a time-stamped link, which would be really helpful, especially for like town halls and stuff like that.
And then Mark Cashman's asking, can you change the thumbnail of each chapter after it's established? You can't. It basically picks whatever time code. So if your time code was 502, it's whatever the image was at 502. We don't have the ability to like customize thumbnails, add each individual chapter.
Yeah, that would be nice though. Yeah, if you could do that, like a little upload button or something. Cool.
Now
So
there
I
is
think that
a
that pretty much
way
covers
that I want to.
chapters.
Well,
Yeah,
there's
Andy.
one last thing about that. When you're working with PowerPoint Live and you're doing a Teams meeting recording, it auto generates the chapters as you're doing PowerPoint Live, right, Mark?
Yeah, that's on the roadmap right now. So that's not available right now, but that's on the roadmap. I believe that's going to be wrapped into the new Teams Premium offering, though.
I remember that at Ignite. Yeah.
Yeah, so with the meeting recap stuff, there's going to be a bunch of cool things. One is like generating chapters automatically from PowerPoint Live. Another one is for meeting recordings. We'll put little time markers on those. So not just chapters, but we'll have one like you joined the meeting at this point and you left the meeting at this point. So you could just watch until that point and then, watch the other part.
That's super
You don't
cool.
have to like figure out where did I leave? Where did I join? We're just going to stick that right on there. Then we'll also add like at mentions of names, like your name got mentioned, like, hey, John, you're going to like, even though you're not there, or even if you are, we're going to follow up on that, John, you're going to take the action item and it'll auto know where your name got mentioned.
Yeah, because the transcript heard a name got mentioned. So it will try to like associate that to somebody who was on the invitation list.
Yep. Yeah, and
That's
then
rad.
the last one is like where screen sharing happens. So like giving these little points of interest so that the meeting recording is way easier to consume. Like, well, where do they actually start the meeting? Where do they share the screen? Then you'll be able to like jump to those points in time. I do think that most of those features will be wrapped in the Teams Premium though for the intelligent recap.
So Michael's got a good question here. Is there any plans for a stream premium? Asking for a friend.
We will I think every team is looking at anything premium. So of course our team is looking at it as well.
Yeah.
We don't have
please don't do ad supported stream. Please don't do that to us.
But we are looking at things. We know things like public anonymous sharing, like embed codes, large scale sharing, like in public anonymous embed codes. We know like super deep analytics to be able to know like deeper stuff than we have. So those are the kinds of things we're exploring. And should those be wrapped in premium? Should they not? That's the kind of thing we're thinking.
We've already got a name for it. Streamium.
Stream Preem.
Stream Preem. Daryl says. Yeah. I just hopefully I don't get like surface ads in my Microsoft Stream videos.
Oh, you just put that out in the universe.
Wait 30 seconds to get to your next one. You got to watch about the new Microsoft Teams clicker for 30 seconds. All right, so that's chapters. There's also the comment capability. This has actually been out for several months. I've seen it where in SharePoint hosted, in OneDrive hosted videos, you could have comments. That's a toggleable flip switch. So you could turn off comments if you want. I've noticed on every video I've uploaded that comments are on by default. So I don't know if that's going to be like a tenant level setting or something like that, but I've just noticed that they're on. So if you don't want comments, you can turn them off in the settings. Do you know if that's like a configurable thing?
If they're on by default, there's only a tenant level and tenant and site level to disable comments. Like if you don't want comments at all, you can disable them, but we don't have a setting that controls whether it shows up or doesn't show up by default.
Okay, like a default. Okay. So
yeah,
the new
stuff in comments is that at mentions are there now as well. So you can at mention someone just like you could in an Office file. And we also added the little like button so people can like a comment as well. Our goal is to make this feel as familiar as, Word and PowerPoint and Excel as you would use those.
This is super nice. If you at mention Diego, he doesn't have access to this video. And because this is SharePoint, because it has that mature, file sharing structure, it knows that. And it tells me, hey, Diego's going to get an alert that he's been mentioned in this video, but he doesn't have access to this video. So there's a problem there. It caught that and it told me, hey, you want to share it with them? Yes, I want to share it with them. Hey, check this out, Diego. And now Diego has a link to that video and knows that he was mentioned in it. So that's just another one of those, like the maturity of SharePoint is there to like catch those types of things so that I don't know how many times I got that where somebody would like send a link to somebody else. Hey, check us out. And they couldn't access it. And then they'd have to ask, they would ask like the IT guy rather than like the person who sent it to them, you know? And then I had to be like, hey, here's the owner. You got to go talk to the owner. With this, the workflow is more native to say, hey, we caught this. Do you want to share it? Yes, I do. And it just works. So I like that a lot. And you got upvotes. Those are nice. And then you can just delete comments after that. So
the other things before you leave this page.
Yeah, I was just joking. You guys need to slow down a little bit. There's so many features. I can't keep up with the hot linking of this and the conversations as we're actually going through it. I mean, there's a ton.
Before we leave this page, I was going to show like title and description is editable right down there. So if you just go down to title below.
It's down at the bottom, isn't it?
You just go in there. You can change the title of the video right from in there. And then you can even add a description. The description is rich text as well. So you can have bolding, italics, hyperlinks directly inside of that description.
So John shows how to put a headset on your big noggin. I can do that. I can make it a link to like meta.com for headset. It's all that rich text right there. You hit the check mark to go ahead and save that. So
there's a couple.
By the way, yesterday, speaking of VR headsets, I got the Quest Pro yesterday. I don't know why I didn't want to show that off, but I got to re-record this video now for how to put a headset on.
Are you trying to subtly suggest that there needs to be another stream feature that allows you to consume the new stream inside of the new headset?
There you go, Mark. Any plans for like 360 video or 180 stereoscopic video? Is that stuff supported by SharePoint?
So 360 video works in SharePoint Spaces. So if you use SharePoint Spaces and you make a SharePoint VR environment, you can actually add videos to it. We have not pulled however, I don't actually know how that team did it. They kind of did it under their own power over the last several years. We haven't pulled that into ours, into SharePoint directly yet. But if you use SharePoint Spaces, you can use 360 video.
Yeah, awesome. We've got another fan of 360 video. So yeah, doing those like campus walkthroughs and stuff, that would be pretty cool for that.
There are some questions about analytics. Do we want to jump to that?
Yes. Yeah, that sounds good.
So today there's nothing. Today there's nothing on the player page right here that shows you those analytics. Like we show the view count in the corner, and that's it. But coming very soon, we showed it in our Ignite video. It's on the public roadmap. There's going to be another right pane there next to comments. There's going to be one called analytics, and you'll be able to see the views and visitors over time and a retention chart. We're actually going to overlay it right on the video, so you could actually see which part of the video got viewed a lot, which part didn't. But both of those analytics already exist today if you go into the document library. So I don't know if you have a document, a video that already has some views on it from your...
I don't really have any, unfortunately. But yeah, if you go to like Megan Bowen's files, I'll just show you guys where it's at. If you're in your SharePoint site or you're in your OneDrive and you've got some videos here, so like how to wear a VR headset, if you hover over that, you see that it's got one view and 2 comments. Click on that one view, and that brings up this statistics pane for you to see how many views per day, all of that. You can actually click the viewer. It will show who viewed it, just like a Word document or a PowerPoint would show. But there's that viewership retention, Mark, that you were talking about over time, how many people watched what part of the video.
Yeah, and then someone also asked in the chat about seeing who actually looked at your file. Well, that's been a feature in SharePoint for a really long time, and John has it enabled in his environment here where it says Megan Bowen viewed the video or viewed the file. That's a setting in SharePoint to allow that who looked at my file. Either you can turn it on or off for SharePoint, or you can turn it on or off for OneDrive. And if you turn it on for SharePoint, there is some weird old classic setting you have to turn on. I can link the help docs on that. But once you turn that on, it actually shows you the individual users that looked at your file.
Yeah.
The other
Awesome.
way to get analytics wise is the site analytics. So as we go into deeper and show you how you can aggregate all your videos into a site, there's also site analytics, and the video files participate in those as well. So yeah, if you go here and you go to
site usage, right?
Yeah. So all of the video files show up here. And like, obviously, if you're going to have a bunch of videos, you can see what was the overall traffic, what was the site visits, which documents in the last 7 days were viewed the most. And then if you scroll down even more, it tells you like time of day.
Time of day.
Like,
oh my gosh, it's awesome.
Whether it's desktop, was it mobile? So like all of this analytics is already available to you because we just declared video files should go in SharePoint and OneDrive. And now we get to reap the benefit of all these being there.
That's awesome. So that's uploading, editing your metadata, right, for your video, thumbnails, stuff like that. Analytics, how to get to that. The other thing that I didn't show that I think is the only thing left on my list right now is let's go into that video, how to wear a headset. Let's open that up. Whoops. Let's open this up. It's under about this video or.
Yeah, I can explain this too, just like for people who are aware. Today, when you click from a document library or from your OneDrive, you go to the preview experience inside of OneDrive and SharePoint, which still has the same player. It still has all those settings. It still has all those sort of things, but it's not that pink stream player. To get to the pink stream player, you have to click the open and stream button over there. This is one of those things we would love your feedback and thoughts on, like, do you like that? Would you like that? Do you like that the default click goes to that preview experience, or would you prefer the default click go to this stream page? So that's, if you have any feedback on that, we would love that.
So all you product designers who are watching, I got really confused there for like 5 seconds. Like, oh, where am I at? So in here, the other thing I wanted to show is we talked about copying a link at a current point in time. The other thing that I forgot is this embed code. So it's important that you know when you're in the stream player, the new stream player, if you need to get an iframe code to put on your intranet site, or something like that, you got like a custom bespoke website that you need, click the embed code and you can choose where it starts. So you could start 25 seconds in, what size you want it to be, if you want it to autoplay, if you want it to be responsive, if you want to show or hide the title. You select your adjustments, copy that embed code, and go put it in your other platform, whatever you need to surface it in. So I didn't want people to miss that either.
Yeah, that's right. That was a massive, big request from our team, and so I'm happy that we were able to push that out right before Ignite. Just for people to where it's internal only, so the user will have to be logged in. It respects the permissions of the file. So just because you grab the embed code and put it somewhere, it doesn't mean that people get access to it for free. It's still the same permissions of the video file itself. And it doesn't work public anonymous. Like, only public anonymous is the share link. We don't have an anonymous embed code.
Okay. Awesome. I like that. Yeah, Mark Cashman says he prefers that preview experience. Like, keep me where I'm already working. I expected to go to the stream thing, so agree to disagree, I guess. But yeah, it's hard to make those decisions. Like where should we take people when they just click on it? The other thing is the last thing before we get into migration, I think, is talking about the recorder experience. Andy, did you want to demo that? Like how to record in the web recorder?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me bring up my screen.
Yeah, I think I put it on you just because you did the good Twitter preview. So you've played with it more than I have. But the new web recorder experience, this is a big thing in the Ignite announcement, or the Ignite video that Mark put out. He shows a demo of how to do this. It was like my most exciting part of that video, was like all the stuff you can do. So
yeah, and I'll just add before you start, Andy, this is rolled out 50%, so you have to be in the lucky 50%. So some of your users might see it, some of them won't, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll move it from 50% to 100% for everyone.
Okay.
Well, I'm really happy that I'm in the lucky 50%. That
if you're in targeted release, it's 100% of targeted release.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'll just dive right in. I'm at office.com. I'm in the new stream homepage experience, and we get the option to go in right up here, and we can start the recording directly in the web browser. So I'll go ahead and click on that. And so it's going to load in the web browser, and right away, it's going to look for the default camera. In my case, it's looking for my Elgato face cam, but we can switch that up. So I'm going to go down to options and go into my device settings. Now I'm going to be able to pick and choose the camera and the microphone that I want to use for this particular recording. So I can switch this over, bring up my main camera here, and then it's actually using my secondary mic off to the side. So I'll bring that a little closer. But grab my mic settings, everything looks good there. And then we got a couple other options that we can kind of play with as we get started with this. Some cool things that I noticed right away. So like, it's going to capture me. That's cool. But one of the biggest asks that I've had, and John's echoed this in a lot of events and, just feedback sessions and things like that, is like, we want to be able to add other media to like things like our recordings and so forth. So there are some things that we can do. So like, we need to mirror the video. We can do that. If you just want to do a mic only recording, you can do that. But you can go into the effects panel here, and that's where we can really start having some fun. So I can drop in some filters, whole bunch of different filters. I haven't played with all of these, but it looks like there's some really interesting ones. I could go pixelated. That looks kind of neat. But you can go into the you get some filtering options to play with. You can drop in text. So predefined text, I'm going to go maybe compact. Pick your font color, whether you want a stroke or a background associated with that, and then drop that into the video up there. We've also got the pin, so we can annotate on top of it. But the one I think I'm most excited about is the photo. This allows me to drag and drop or add a photo into this. So for example, if I wanted to,
like
I could
add
add
logo or something like that.
Yep, company branding.
Nice.
So let me go to.
Does that support? You might show this, but does that support transparent PNGs to do like a bug? Oh yeah.
Yep,
that's sweet.
So
Nice.
There's my logo
or bugs.
Yep. Resize it, drop it in right inside of there. And then I've just branded the video. I mean, that was super simple. I didn't even have to leave the web browser in order to do that. So I was really excited to see those features in there. And then just going along the bottom panel over here, there's also the backdrop option. So we can pick from backdrops. There are some predefined backdrops, and we can apply that right inside of there, just like we would if we were in Microsoft Teams. There's a little feathering with it, but we're running through the web browser. So it's definitely going to work better.
Teams backgrounds too.
Yeah.
Plus some extras, it looks like.
You can just do like come into that feathering problem. So we're working on switching out the algorithm to match the one that Teams is using. So that's coming hopefully soon.
And to be completely honest, if my background were a little bit more separated from me, if I had maybe a green screen, it would probably look a lot better. Because I noticed like around the headphones, the feathering is a little bit more pronounced than it is like around the shoulders. So there's no shade that can be thrown at that. I mean, the background behind me is not the best for this.
Every platform I've seen does pretty bad with like headphones that have like a gap, unless you have a proper green screen.
Somebody just needs to tell the manufacturers to start making green screen headphones, so we can just key them out.
Chroma green headphones.
Now, the hard part's going to be interpreting our ears underneath the headphones. That's a whole thing for AI to figure out. Maybe you can pick and choose your own ears when your headphones get keyed out.
Are they going to have AI generated ears or legs in the metaverse first? Like, which one's going to come first?
And then, so we got the background blur, but we can also use the screen as the background, or you can upload a picture. So like if I grabbed an image, that's just going to go to my local library. I can grab something from there, which is, I think pretty straightforward. So if I had a background that I wanted to work with there, be able to grab that. But I thought this one was actually really interesting. Use the screen as a backdrop.
That's my favorite. Yeah, there's the screen as the background.
So this is like very, very similar to what you get in Microsoft Teams when you're using the web experience for presenting content. So like you can pick a whole screen, you can pick an individual window, you can pick like a specific tab inside of your web browser that's open, and you can even like preview that particular tab and then click share, and you're going to be able to record with that thing selected. And so like I go back here and so we're getting the preview of it, and there I am.
It's so much better than the old recorder.
Yeah. So a couple other things about it that are pretty cool. Like it's got me center kind of in the middle of this. Like we've got options to kind of move around, and even to be able to kind of resize and move that within the within it. So like I can kind of put myself over my logo right over there. And now like I've got a pretty good like screen recording ready to go. And then it's just a matter of let's hit the record button, and then we're off and running talking about the new recorder experience inside of Microsoft Stream. Here I am. I'm actually embedded directly on top of the screen that I want to demo off of. We're gathering or capturing audio and video at the same time. I've got my logo involved in that. I've got the background actually, eliminated from it. And this is going to be a pretty awesome recording.
Can you show what the options and effects look like? Like, can you like toggle the pin and then like start drawing while it's recording? Hey, look over here, and then erase it. And, like you could do in like the native Flipgrid app.
So I actually haven't done that yet, but sure, let's break it.
Yeah. Cool. So you're in there, you're recording right now. So let's go into the effects.
Yep.
And you can add text on the fly, add a pin, start annotating a bunch of stuff. And it's going to bake that into the recording, kind of like what we do, where we click on this, comment, and that is now going to be burned into the live stream recording. He's doing that with annotations, doing basically live editing, right?
Yeah, it's all kind of like DJing the recording as you go, and then you can do pauses in between. So you could pause, set up a different stage, switch to a different screen sharing, unpause. And then be able to
that's
have
true. That's really nice. That's kind of like the people who like rather than recording in Camtasia, they record using like OBS, and they'll like pause, change it up, hit to go. It's all about streamlining your content creation process, right? Like as much as you can do live, if you rehearse, how to use these tools because you've practiced, it's going to way cut down your editing time later,
And I just got it on pause. So we'll go back in, we'll pick up. We've moved into the next section. We're doing something completely different than we were doing before. You might have noticed some things have moved around. And then it's just a matter of, all right, I think we're good.
Yeah, and at the top, before he went to that screen, you saw this little countdown timer. There was like 13:48. So you have a 15-minute limit for these recorded videos. So keep that in mind. These are for short explainer videos, tip videos, stuff like that. Mark, are there any plans to increase that limit? I've heard a lot of feedback, and I've given a lot of feedback that like, is it ever going to go to like an hour or 30 minutes? Is there any plans for something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of in listening mode at this point in time. We really we would love people to like hit that 15-minute limit or start making videos that are that longer. And then the telemetry tells us like, wow, people are really doing, that sort of stuff. But yeah, we're basically in listening mode right now. If you go to aka.ms/stream ideas, you could go there and then vote, add a topic. So say we need it longer. We're in listening mode right now. It's not even fully released yet, so we need to get it out. Some of the stuff that's coming next, someone mentioned like we need some annotation like arrows and other things like that. Those are shapes. We are actually working on that, where you can have some little animated GIFs, some other things that could be auto pulled in. So those are the kinds of things that we're working to pull in first. 15 minutes, we're still kind of listening mode.
Did you say aka.ms/stream ideas?
Yep. Yeah. This page.
I've already got it in there.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody, go tell them you want longer record time. There's the link. go spam them. Because yeah, I would love to see that go up in time. Thanks, Mark.
The other friction point is that like it, because it's all in one record or pausing, right? Like it's not, and you don't have a lot of editing after the fact. If you get much longer than 15 minutes, you might need to do more editing. And so, you know, we're thinking about how that could then transition to Clipchamp in the long run, right? Like do your camera stuff, do some stuff, and then import it into Clipchamp, and then re-edit it, remix it, you know, do some of that stuff after the fact.
Awesome. So go back to your recording there. So you've got the recording. We can trim that recording very easily. I think you were going to show that next. Like if you click on the timeline, then you can grab those edges. You can bring them in to shorten your video. Like I have a lot of trouble starting my videos. If you've ever like watched one of my YouTube videos, you should see how many like false starts I had before that, where I get like 10 seconds and I'm like, oh, I'm such an idiot. And then I start over again. You could trim all that stuff off at the beginning and just save it.
You're like Ricky Bobby. I don't know what to do with my hands as I'm starting my
right?
video.
Yeah. I never know how to start. Like these live streams, like, hey, everybody, I don't know really what I'm doing. I'm terrible at starting videos and ending videos.
Yeah, so just going in, like timeline, just click on the timeline to activate it. And as John said, now we've got these the option to be able to trim. And you can see like it'll it's kind of giving me a preview or playing the video as I'm moving through it, and then trim the back end of it as well, and you can kind of see some of the cuts there. And then when you let go of it, it kind of jumps back a few frames from where you were with that playhead, and then kind of picks up in place from there. So you can trim from the beginning and the end. I know there's going to be questions in the chat window. What about the middle?
Any plans for like being able to chunk it in the middle, rearrange, you know?
Yeah, I
like
honestly don't know. I haven't touched base with the camera team lately. I feel like I've seen some things like that where like you could move around clips and things like that. So I feel like it's on the docket and it's working on, but
that's kind of a Clipchamp-y type of feature, right? Being able to like go to the player, split the clip, rearrange it. Like those are the types of things we can do in Clipchamp. So maybe next Ignite, like back to our predictions, you know?
Yeah, I need to double check with her. I don't know if anyone on the chat is from the camera team. If you could jump in and answer, but I think they're also thinking about like being able to upload a video, so you could like have your own little bumper footer that you could add, and then do your recording in the middle. So I think we are trying to make the camera grow a little bit deeper than what it is today.
Yeah, I'm like floored, honestly, by the annotations. Like I think that is super cool.
Yeah, and we're adding more annotations as well. Like there's going to be stuff like being able to add little animated GIFs with an arrow, or so. And then we showed some of that in the stream,
that'd be cool.
The Ignite video.
Sweet. That's awesome. So now that you've got it trimmed down to the perfect size, you can hit confirm. It's going to, you know, squeeze that into the video that you then publish, and then you can share the link from there. And it's kind of all the same stuff you had before. Add a thumbnail, description, chapters, whatever you need, and send it on its way.
Yeah, just basically pushes it into your OneDrive, and then you could use the Stream Web app to add all the chapters and other stuff that you want there. It does use the WebM format, and we know that does cause some problems if you wanted to download it and do something else with it. That's just the way that web tech works for being able to do all this in a web browser. So it does use WebM, but we are looking at, so if you click the download button up there, it's going to download a WebM file. And then someone had mentioned, there's a bug where I paste my link to my WebM file in my OneDrive or SharePoint into Yammer. It doesn't unfurl. We know that's a bug. We're working on fixing that.
Okay, cool. Here's a brand new question. Any plans for playback in Power Apps? I don't know if that's
again, go push on the Power Apps team, give them their feedback. We've said that would be amazing if it could be there. I believe that they are thinking about it. I just don't know the timeline.
Awesome.
All right.
Cool. So I think from here, go ahead and publish it.
And
I see it's uploading to OneDrive. Again,
I like that you give multiple options to download as well. There was the one on the previous screen, and then right there was also the one to download.
You can download it. and again, because this is just SharePoint or just OneDrive and SharePoint, if that's not where you wanted that video to go, right up there in the top left corner, you've got move to. You can move it to some other SharePoint site, have it be part of a site that you've curated and all that without leaving the site or having to download videos. You can just move it all inside of the SharePoint UI.
Yep, just like that.
Nice. Okay, cool. So that's the web recorder. Anything else about that you guys can think of? And then we got to make up time to talk about migration.
Yeah, just briefly, I just want to mention a workflow perspective, a couple of things to kind of bring out and make sure everybody's aware of. So like we're talking about the new stream, the new stream experience, and many of us are working with Teams meeting recordings. We've been working with that for quite a while, and a couple of baseline things I just want to mention is like Teams meeting recordings. If I'm the organizer and it's a private meeting, that's going to live in my OneDrive. So I go into OneDrive, view the Teams meeting recording there, and just pull that up. I'm going to get the stream experience right inside of my OneDrive, but I'm also going to get the stream, the full stream player, the transcript, the ability to work with like the comments, ability to work with the thumbnails and so forth. So like that's going to be right there in line with the video, no matter where I go. I don't have to go and seek those things out. I don't have to go and put the video in Stream Classic in order to get that. It meets me where I actually work.
That was something a lot of people did, was they would go take their recording, put it in Stream Classic so they could generate a transcript. Like that's all native functionality now in your recordings.
Yeah. And it's meeting me where I work as part of my workflow. So like when I'm delivering like trainings and, technical content, a lot of times we're doing that through Teams meetings, and we're recording it inside of there, taking advantage of PowerPoint Live. So being able to go in and very quickly update the thumbnail, being able to go ahead and drop chapters in it. And then rather than, and I guess another feature, if you will, is the thing can be shared with the attendees of the meeting. So it can live in my OneDrive and it can be shared with them. But what I actually do as part of my workflow is I take advantage of the Move To and the Copy To. So right from there, I'm able to grab the recording, and then I can move that quickly out of my OneDrive, and I can put it in SharePoint, maybe a communication site or a team site connected like a Microsoft 365 group. And then I can pick and choose the library that I want to drop that into. And, it's very minimal process for me. No downloading and then re-uploading. It's like, hey, here's the video, click Move To, click the name of the SharePoint site, pick the library, go ahead and copy it over here. And then just like that, most of that work is actually already done for me. And if I'm using the copy to command, I have the copy that lives here in my OneDrive, but now I'm going to have that copy that's going to live over in that SharePoint site. And then the SharePoint permissions and the access control are going to take it in place over there for those teammates. And so I use this all the time for all of the different webinars and trainings that we do, deliver them through Teams. And this just helps with the workflow.
Speaking of slinging files around and like moving them to another SharePoint, I wanted to point out, like this came up in a conversation internally earlier too, that what if it was in my OneDrive and I shared a bunch of stuff and then I want to move it to another like SharePoint site that's going to be my video portal. SharePoint has this, and OneDrive has this great feature where if you've already generated like 6 links to it for different people, when you click Move To and you go select another like Microsoft Teams site or Yammer backed SharePoint or something like that, that keep sharing links down there at the bottom. I don't know if you mentioned that, Andy. You probably did and I missed it. That is critical to not breaking those links that already existed.
So, yeah, and then Thomas Lobb also says like downloading and uploading breaks the information. So like if you had chapters or comments or like the points of interest that we're going to have for Teams Premium coming soon, all of that'll break if you download the video file. Then it's like you're re-uploading just an empty normal video file. And so if you use the cloud copy or move, then it keeps all of that data. It keeps the fact that it's a meeting recording with the expiration date. All of those things go with it.
Yeah. As we transition to like migration talk and stuff like that, I just wanted to point this out, that hopefully you're watching this and being like, okay, I'm getting the story now. I'm seeing like why this is so powerful and what I can do. It was really rapid fire, a whole lot of like features and talking about stuff, which is kind of our style. But I hope that you're kind of like coming along like, all right, I see the reason why it being in SharePoint or it being in OneDrive, that storage platform gives me all kinds of intelligence and feature options. So I like that comment, like, oh, I'm starting to get it now. So,
and I'm just going to bring this one comment up, and this is going to kind of be a preview of something. We realized we had way too much content for just a 2-hour window. So to Daryl's question, do you recommend using a library dedicated to videos? It would be good from a permissions and metadata perspective. Short answer to that is yes. I personally do. I like separating it out into separate libraries. I can get separate metadata, separate permissions. If I'm using granular permissions, that's kind of my operating module with that. But we've talked about doing a follow-up stream where John and I talk about uploading, organizing, and building kind of various video-based portals inside of SharePoint. And so I think that's going to be a follow-up deep dive that we're going to do hopefully in the near future.
Yeah. I'll do a short little demo about that. I started building out and going through these guided walkthroughs that we pasted a link to this already, and building out this type of thing. And I started having this internal struggle of like, all right, should I recommend to my users sites or document library in place of a channel, or just a simple folder in place of a channel? And I think I'm coming around to like general recommendation from my perspective is I like the idea of you've got your site. It's called Office 365 Adoption, and you've got multiple channels. I think for my use case, I'm just going to make those folders and have that be where I put those files, because I've figured out how I can filter those web parts just on that folder that is that quote unquote channel of videos. So to give a preview of a deep dive we're going to do later, specifically about a workshop of building these sites and these portals, this is what I've created off of that workflow. So I've got like 2 or 3 dozen videos. This is kind of a hybrid version of this, where I've got a featured content up here at the top. This is just a file viewer option with like a featured video with a description. Scrolling down a little bit, this is what that classic web part for a channel looks like. So it's like a film strip. I can scroll through Teams Tip Tuesday videos and watch them. Again, with working with OneDrive. But say that I want to cut over. I'm a communications person. I want to start a new channel about live event production, advanced live events. And I want to do stream on SharePoint for that new channel while I think about migration a little bit later. I can put that in this same SharePoint. Here's a highlighted content web part based off of video that is stored in a SharePoint folder. And again, I have that same carousel of being able to step through these. I can see the nice, beautiful thumbnails that I've curated and uploaded, who uploaded the file, what it's named, and a link to another SharePoint page that I think it's this. Yeah, I think I made this nice. Yeah. Rather than linking to just the folder with all just the ugly files sitting there, it looks like Windows Explorer. Instead, I put a page in between. And that page is a quote unquote channel, like what a channel would be in Classic. And I was looking at Classic Stream and realizing that, like, all right, I've got the spotlight area where it was kind of highlighted videos. I've replaced that in SharePoint with a hero web part, specifically pointed to SharePoint hosted videos to watch it, with a great thumbnail, a call to action. In the highlights page on Stream channels, you used to be able to have like this trending video and most recent or latest videos. Again, I've recreated that in SharePoint with a highlighted content web part called trending or sorted by trending. Another highlighted content in that same 2-pane column that's sorted by most recent. And then at the bottom, I've just got a roll up of just all videos. And I've got this one set to, I think the maximum is 500 videos you can show in a web part. So this is just a scroll of all the videos in one thing. And now instead of in Stream Classic, if you went into a channel or a group, you had the highlights and then you had the videos like page, and they were 2 separate places. You can put them in one landing page because of the flexibility of SharePoint and adding those web parts kind of like Lego bricks to build out your experience. So this is just a preview of like, I want to like have us go through and build this live sometime, but this is what I've created in just like 30 minutes of effort.
Hey, John, can I jump in? A couple of things from
Yeah,
the
man.
chat. Yeah, that's the hero web part, and you click one of those, click one of them. It
Yes.
just plays directly in line inside. So that's new
Yeah.
just in the last couple of weeks. We rolled that out. But the hero web part, if you add
That's
videos to
so
it, they play
nice.
in line. And we'll look to do that as well in the highlighted content web part in the future as well. And
Yeah,
this
rather
page
than
that
jumping
John has
out.
up here is a really good
Mhm.
channel replacement. So like people keep saying, well, where's my groups and channels? Well, you can recreate these with a very little amount of effort to make even a
Yeah.
better page than you could ever have with Stream Classic. And these pages can be
Mhm.
pinned as tabs in Teams, right? Like a SharePoint
Yeah.
page can just show up as a tab in Teams. And so
Mhm.
if you're education, they can show up in your education homepage, right? You can use all of these web parts
Yep.
in your education homepage. And so, yes, it does take a little bit more effort and work to build these out, but
Yeah.
the end result is way more flexible, way more customizable. And then we
Mhm.
are working on the capability to add playlists. So we don't have it on the public roadmap, but we've mentioned it in the public already before that we're going to
Mhm.
build playlists on top of Microsoft lists. So in addition to building these kind of channel pages, we'll also have another capability in the future, sometime in April, I believe, to be able to have like add a bunch of videos to a playlist, and then you could send that as a container to
Tie
Google.
things together in this other construct called a playlist.
Yeah.
The thing to point out too, like excluding the hero web part, that is manual. But if you build this page with these highlighted content web parts, that is one-time work. You only have to do that once because now you're in a workflow where you pointed that web part to a folder. Now your workflow is just like Classic Stream. Upload the video to the folder, make a thumbnail, add chapters and a description. You do all that stuff and it's published. Your page is dynamic. It's automatically updated. You don't have to go to your page and add it. It's not that type of stuff. These are roll-up web parts. So this is only one time you've got to kind of build this experience. And then what I did, you were mentioning tabs and teams. What I did instead is I added it to the navigation bar at the top of my SharePoint site. And again, I said, this is kind of a hybrid. This is like during migration, right? I've got some stuff in Classic. I've got some stuff in SharePoint on or Stream on SharePoint. These links are even hybrid as well. This one is a SharePoint page, but this other link right here, that takes you to the Classic Stream channel because I haven't migrated that yet. So you can like kind of blend these together. And then as you structure your migration and you do your move, then it's like, okay, I just got to change the nav bar. I got to change the pointer on my homepage to a different like highlighted content web part. And I've like transitioned over to like a totally SharePoint experience for video. So that's what I want to be able to show later on in another deep dive. So anything to add there, Andy, that you can think of? Or should we talk the last 20 minutes about migration strategies?
Yeah, I think we need to go ahead and dive into migration and give that some time. I'm looking forward to
Cool.
doing more of a deeper dive into building out stream video channel portals and things like that. But let's get into our migration because I know there's a number of people in the audience that have a lot of questions on that.
Yeah. So I think, Mark, tell me if I'm missing any bullet points, but off the top of my head, after watching your video, reading the docs, I think this is kind of your general outline of like how to plan your migration or what are the components to shift your workloads over. Because the way I see it is there's kind of two streams of effort here. There's we need to get people using the new stream from an IT perspective. I need to get my users adopting it. And then I need to go do the migration. I need to run the tool. And there's levers that I can pull to try to like entice people over there. I can show them examples. I can show them screen caps and stuff, but there's admin controls I can do. One of the things is like, if I were starting out, I would go look at the usage that you have in stream today, start segmenting out like, what are my users using? Where are my videos? Are they in groups? Are they in user containers, company channels? We'll talk about that in a second. Then something that was announced at Ignite is they have the ability to put a banner on the Classic homepage announcing that like, hey, this change is coming. You can put links in that banner to like tell people how to get, to your documentation about the new stream on SharePoint, stuff like that. You have an admin switch in the SharePoint admin center to switch the tile. So if you go to office.com, you've got the stream button in that little waffle menu. you can flip that over to the new Stream landing page instead of Stream Classic. Then in Stream Classic, you can go into the admin settings for that, block uploads so that people can't upload to Classic anymore. You're kind of like forcing them over to SharePoint at that point. And then you need to think about developing your migration strategy. That ideally will go alongside making these infrastructure changes, right? Start planning your strategy as soon as you start understanding how things are used. You need to start figuring out how you're going to get people's existing videos over. And then after that, it's, spend however long it's going to take to run the migration tool that's powered by the SharePoint migration experience, the former artist formerly known as Mover. So did I miss anything in that kind of structure, high level structure?
No, I think that this encapsulates what we're kind of thinking. We also have some statistics. I don't have them off the top of my head around how quickly video views degrade on a video. So I think after like 111 days or something, like 80% of views are done, and like you'll get 20% of the views past 100 days. So deciding and putting a plan in place for blocking uploads in Stream Classic will actually help your content load degrade over time of what people care about or not care about. And so you don't have to necessarily move all of the content because maybe it won't be actually needed. And that usage report is going to be really, really helpful. So today, the way you run it is it has a PowerShell script. It outputs like a giant set of CSVs. And then we created a Power BI desktop report so that you can just feed in those CSV files into the Power BI desktop report. And it gives you like all the slicing and dicing you would need, gives you all the like trends of how often videos are viewed and not viewed and upload and when were they last uploaded. And then you could drill down to containers. So use that to kind of put a plan in place for what you need to move and what you don't need to move. The migration tool today allows you to kind of migrate container by container. So a M365 group in Stream is a container. A user who didn't add their videos to groups or channels, that's a container. And so you can move those one by one. And then in early Q1, we're looking at moving or allowing partial migration of containers. So if you don't want to move videos that haven't been viewed in the last 2 years, you could put a little filter on the migration. So it doesn't do that today, but early next year is when we'll have those extra filters on top of it to help as well.
Awesome. So from experience, I can say from experience that usage report, go learn how to run that PowerShell, view it in Power BI. It's fascinating. We got early access to it, and like I was playing around with it, and it's like it's so enlightening to like really get a view of like how many videos you have and like what the size is and stuff. I could say from my organization is quite large. It's staggering the amount of videos that we have. So along the lines of running that usage migration, what I've pulled out in my own strategy development for like how we're going to do this stream migration, some guiding principles that you want to think about is that, again, segmenting out your usage, segmenting out what type of videos you have. There's a few main types of videos that you could identify, and there's ones that are meeting recordings. So like those are like back before you were like in OneDrive based Teams recordings back in the olden days. Remember, you would record a Teams meeting, it would go to Stream Classic and live there. That's a type of container, or that's a type of video you might have in your environment. My line of thinking is maybe you let users decide what to do with those types of videos. When you talk about like the videos that somebody actually dragged and dropped into the My Content section of Stream Classic, those were uploaded. They're a user container is what it's called in the migration tool. Those you might think about, okay, those would map to the user's OneDrive. So the destination naturally would be to put it in that person's OneDrive. The 365 groups and the company-wide channels, remember, like if you create a stream group, it'll have a little flag that says M365, or that you started in Yammer, you get a stream group associated with that. That's in a container. That's an Office 365 group that has a SharePoint already. So again, it makes sense to migrate, to map that automatically or by default to that existing SharePoint already existing. Go ahead and move it there. That might be something you consider. And then stream only groups, or like content that's like a video that isn't owned by anybody anymore, like it's stale, or we call it orphaned, you might consider like either leaving that behind, preferably, or if you want to be extra nice, you may want to consider like, wait, maybe we'll set up an archive SharePoint site and we'll go in the tool, those stream only groups, because they came from like the old Office 365 video days. Maybe you archive those to another SharePoint so they don't actually go away, but you could like put them in a central location just in case. So those are things that I've thought of personally. And then the attributes in the tool, in the usage report, that might inform what you want to do and how you identify people is there's a last viewed date, so you can see when that video was last accessed, the number of views, how important is this video based off of how often it's been watched, who owns it, so who do you need to reach out to. It might show a group owner or like a person, and then there's owners in that group. And then start like segmenting and slicing your data with like Power BI to see like, all right, how many videos are in each individual group, so I can know who my heavy hitters are, and I can start building like a coalition of like early adopters or something like that. So those are just some conceptual principles that I've thought about when I've been considering migration. Anything to add there, Andy or Mark, that you guys in talking with customers or something?
No, yeah, go ahead, Andy.
I was gonna say it's really well thought out, because like John, you and I, we've been having this conversation now for a while about
for like months.
Months, yeah, like trying to figure out like the path forward. And I think you've put a lot of thought into this. The things that kind of jump out at me, and like I'm seeing some of this even echoed inside of the comments, like for example, the thing about like playlists keeps coming up over and over and over as part of this. Like, but yeah, I wouldn't worry so much about like that, because I can recreate a playlist fairly easily using like highlighted content, web part, and and kind of build it however I want whenever I get it to the SharePoint site. So like, I'm not really worried about that. The things that I'm more worried about as it comes to like defining this content is, where's the white glove service going to come into play? Where are those high level things that people above my pay grade are going to be like, this has to be done, and I need you to do it now. Like, those are the things that kind of concern me. But with that in mind, like, this, I don't see this as being like super intimidating, because I don't have to do a big lift and shift. I don't have to take everything out of Stream Classic and just drop it into one SharePoint site and then have to go through the task of kind of organizing this. I can self-service some of this, which is really helpful. Like, I can do the white glove service for the high impact customers, but then I can make the self-service for some of our teammates, and then kind of build what they want. But now we're freeing up teammates so that marketing can have their own portal, and HR can have their own portal, and the executive team can have their own portal. And I don't have to worry about all the conflicts and, the company feeds and like all the playlists in like one area. So it's like, I'm going through and I'm looking at this stuff. Like, I'm trying to like figure out, okay, where's that going to go with those kinds of considerations in mind. And the other thing that the archive, I think that's brilliant. We were talking the other day, and when we were discussing the archive, you mentioned to colleagues like, yep, we're just going to have a SharePoint site and we can't find a place for it. We're going to dump it into that site. And if somebody says that they need it, we're going to set them loose on the site and they can find it, and then we can do whatever they need afterward. I love that approach, because that's going to help us to identify redundant, outdated, and trivial information. Did you really need it? Because we gave you access to the site and you didn't go and find it.
Yeah,
or,
you never used it.
You never used it. So was it really that important? The only thing that causes pause with that is I don't want my users to start looking at workarounds or alternatives. Like, we're going to provide the user education around this, and the help and office hours and support around that, so that they understand what they can and should do, versus like, trying to find like their own pathway forward. And having some of the tools in place in SharePoint, like the ability to have permissions and external sharing and information, management policies and retention and so forth, is going to be a big help and help put a lot of us at ease.
Yeah.
That was
Phil
all
has
over
a
the place.
great comment here. That's I'm so glad we blocked meeting recordings until it was on OneDrive. Those organizations are going to have a little bit easier time, because I think on the next slide here, I've seen at more than one organization now. Don't be shocked if you see something that looks similar to this, that you may find that when you go look through all of your stuff, you've been in Stream Classic for a couple years, chances are the vast majority of your environment is probably old Teams meeting recordings that haven't been, they were recorded like a year ago. Nobody is watching them. According to Microsoft statistics, hardly anybody watches video after 111 or whatever days. So chances are, if you wait for that kind of like filter based migration or the partial migration, maybe you wait a little bit for that so that you could like exclude these Teams meeting recordings and only move like a slice, a 10% slice of what's actually in stream. And you've like immediately reduced your workload down to something that actually matters, right? So that's something that, like a little preview, you might see something like that. Another thing you might see is there's a couple of organizations with all the numbers removed, is that like beyond that, what I've seen in the wild at a couple organizations is that the vast majority of what's left, the things that aren't Teams meeting recordings, what's left, user-based videos. It's people throwing a video on stream and then sharing a link to it. That a lot of the times is the majority. Then you get to your next biggest group is usually like Microsoft 365 groups or things that were organized into channels and stuff like that. Stream only groups, a lot of times that could be very small, because that stuff a lot of times is what came over from the last migration you did from Office 365 video, right? And still is sitting out there. So you might think about archiving that, because it's like moving houses, and it's like I never even unboxed this stuff. Why am I moving it to my third new apartment? Company-wide channels, if you've locked that down, that's probably going to be a very small slice. And those definitely need white glove treatment, because probably that's like your CEO announcement videos, stuff like that. And then the stuff that's orphaned, that's left over. A way that I've represented this is I had one of those like aha moments about like I like analogies. And one analogy that I have is like when you're staring down the barrel of like tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of videos, it seems overwhelming and like an elephant that you need to eat. How am I going to eat this elephant? I like to think of it like a boarding group. We're going to be getting on the plane and moving to new stream on SharePoint. So the way that I would segment or think about segmenting your videos, your people, is you've got the crew. Those are like your folks that are in internal IT. They're piloting, they're prototyping, they're building out these templates and these recipes for how to represent your video in SharePoint. After that, maybe you've got first class type people. Those are people who are excited about Microsoft Stream on SharePoint. They want to, help you out by giving you feedback. They're the early adopters and power users. Use these people to build champion groups. Wrap your arms around them, give them office hours, tell them how this is going to go, and help them so that they can be your success stories later on during your adoption journey. You can go back to them and say, hey, can you tell everybody how great this was? After that, you've got your business class, is what I consider. That's your communications teams, your executive videos, stuff like that. That's what you need, that are white glove service. And those are like maybe edge case users. If they're migrating with 50,000 other videos, you don't want the one video that fails to be the CEO's town hall from last quarter, right? So separate those important people out, give them white glove service, monitor their migration. Then you move on to everybody else. I call that coach. That's everybody who self-empowered. They made 100,000 Microsoft Teams. They threw 1 million videos in those teams, but it was totally self-service. Now that we've developed our best practices, we've got all of our guidance out there. Let's start doing the mass migrations, right? It's operationalized at this point. And then at the very end, if you consider it, you've got your stowaways at the back of the plane. That's your orphan videos, your things going to an archive site. Don't forget those people, but they're honestly less important than the people who need white glove service. So this is something that one of those like aha moments in the shower where you're just like, I've got it. here's an analogy. Hopefully this kind of explains like a line of thinking that you might follow as you're considering your migration strategy. So any other ideas on that? Have you had conversations with customers about this, Mark, and like how they're developing their strategies and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's kind of looking to like, hey, Microsoft, tell us how to do it, or how are other customers doing? So like, I'm just pointing them back to you, John, on like the ideas. Some of the ideas that we put into the
Yeah.
help docs actually came from the early
One of our
conversation.
largest customers
One
shared
of
this
our
with us.
largest customers, John's organization.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we kind of pointing back to that in the help docs of like, these are the ideas and how. I mean, the only other like counterintuitive way I've heard some organizations is like, what if we didn't do any migration and we just locked everything
Yeah.
down and said whatever, you know? And
That's
so like,
certainly
there is
valid if
that
that's your company
thinking as well.
culture, you know. It should align with your knowledge architecture. You know, like Andy, him explaining like HR portals and this portal and that portal. If you've got a really great thought out knowledge architecture, just align this to that. You know, don't recreate the wheel if you don't have to. But this is just an idea of like if it's insurmountable feeling, let's think about doing this in a way that we can actually achieve. You know, so cool.
Really good
So the
question.
migration tool demo, I unfortunately am not gonna be able to show this one today because I got an error message. So what was that question, Andy?
I think this kind of pertains kind of as we get to this part of this particular question. What happens after migration when documentation or chats contain a link to classic stream videos? And I think that was an important piece of the conversation that we wanted to make sure we got to today.
Yeah.
So like, for example, classic stream web parts pointing to videos that were in classic stream, things like that.
Yeah, so all the links, the embed codes, the classic stream web part on SharePoint, they'll redirect. Today in the preview, it just redirects and puts a big button like click here to open your video, and it opens in a new tab. But we're hoping that early next year we can have at least single videos redirect and play the videos directly in line for embed codes. But direct links, they'll go. And yeah, Ignacio, thank you for answering questions in the chat here. Ignacio's on our customer acceleration team, and so he's here in the chat answering questions as well. But yeah, they'll redirect.
Yeah. Yep. And so that's another thing in the preview, in the migration tool preview, pick some videos, upload them, move them over, and you'll see how that redirect works. It's been pretty good in my experience, you know, takes you right where you need to go. So cool. Yeah. As I was saying, I have the migration tool up, but unfortunately I was getting an error on it. So maybe we'll deep dive that at another time for how it works. But basically the way that you're going to run through your migration preview, it's in the SharePoint admin center. You're going to go to migration, and then there's the stream preview. When you click on that, there's two phases to your migration, or two areas here. The first one is your scan. We're going to see what containers we've got in the environment. You can choose 3 different ways. You can just look for everything and build a giant list. Or if you want to pilot this, you can go get the link from one of your stream groups or from one of your users. Go grab like the identifier from the URL. You can put that in and add a single container and what type it is. Or if you've got a list of like 10 containers, you can put that into a CSV file, upload that. It will go through a scan process that'll show you like how many videos it found, how big they are, that type of stuff. What you would do is you would select that and you would add it to your migration right there for your test. And then that takes you to the migration tab at the top. That will show up as basically like a job right here. I've got a container. Here's where it is. Here's where it's going by default. And then you can like go run that. You can select it and hit the migrate button, and it will start churning through those videos, doing the migration to the destination that you either took the default or you set it manually where you wanted it to go. And then when it's done, go start testing your videos where they were. Say you emailed yourself a link to an old Stream Classic video. Go click on that link, watch it redirect through. You posted it on Yammer, go see how that redirect worked. That's kind of your basic structure for how you're going to do the migration tool, at least while you're in preview and you're piloting this type of stuff. Anything to add on that, Mark?
No, I wish we could have shown it. We didn't. We ran
Yeah.
out of time, and it was running into bugs. It is in public preview. So if you run into the bugs like we're running into now, feel free to open support tickets and have the support team escalated up to us in the product group so that we can get these things fixed as quick as possible.
Cool. Awesome. So what's coming next? They're in Marc's Ignite video. Definitely go watch that. We'll put another link to it here at the end of the stream, but go watch that because he's got a roadmap slide of what's coming next. Marc, do you have like maybe like your top 3 things that you're most excited about that's coming like imminently into this experience?
Sure. Yeah, so imminently coming playback speed for more than team meeting recordings. Today, you can only do playback speed like 1x, 1.5x, 1.8x, 2x speed for team meeting recordings. Like desperately want to be able to do that for any video file in OneDrive or SharePoint. So that's coming. That's on the roadmap. So that's super exciting. Not on the roadmap yet, but hopefully coming in around the April timeframe is playlists. And we think that that's going to be a really cool feature once you guys see it, where you can be able to add videos into a kind of an ordered list inside of Microsoft Lists, and you're going to be able to like play those videos directly in order. And then we'll use that concept in the future. We'll extend that in the next year or so with like notifications and subscriptions and cool stuff like that. So those are there. I'm trying to think what else is imminently coming. Just the recorder tool. So getting that recording tool out to 100%. Hopefully in the next several weeks, that's going to finish roll out for you guys. I don't know, anyone else in the chat of other ideas of cool stuff that you've seen on the roadmap?
Yeah, feel free to spam the chat with that, with what you're excited about for your next, major feature that you're looking forward to that was in Marc's video. That'll give people also watching some ideas. Yeah.
I'm looking at the roadmap now. I forgot things. Search. So being able to search directly on the transcript pane. So you'll be able to go to the transcript and just search. And you'll be able to like next to find wherever those were directly in the transcript pane. And then that video analytics that we said right now, you could only get to it from the document library, but having that video analytics directly on the video page, those are the ones that are going to be really exciting.
That's going to be awesome. Cool. Well, I'm out of steam, guys. I'm out of stream. This was a long one with a lot of stuff. I don't know that we've got anything else we can talk about. I'm 4 minutes late for a meeting right now, but I think that's a good amount to cover. So if you in the chat, if you're watching later in the comments on the YouTube video, let us know like what other deep dives would you want to see with new Stream on SharePoint? Do you want to see video portal creation? Do you want to see a bigger deep dive into like tips and tricks for recording using that web recording experience? That type of stuff. Let us know, because I think we definitely need to revisit this over the next year or so as we go through this migration. I want to keep this like up to date and keep supporting the community with like stuff that we're learning along our journey. Let us know what types of stuff you want to see. And maybe we can get Marc back or other guests to kind of talk about these cool things in the future. So cool.
I'll just put one plug. I just put it into the chat. aka.ms Stream Connect. If you want to sign up, we do have twice a month office hours where like anyone in the world can just join our Teams call and ask us questions directly. And so if you wanted to sign up for that, that would be very helpful. Any questions, it doesn't matter what it is, rude Q&A, we'll answer those questions for you directly in our office hours.
Yeah, and you said that's Stream Connect, right?
Yeah, aka.ms Stream
cool.
Connect.
There you go. It's on screen now. aka.ms/Stream Connect. Go there. That's where you can get office hours and support. Join that community of other professionals. I try to come to them as I can. Most of my meetings are like with folks in like London and the East Coast, so they're like during that time. But there's an awesome group of like-minded professionals there that it's a great way to like get help from Microsoft, but also just see how other people are doing things. And a rising tide raises all ships. It's you definitely don't go through this alone, So awesome, guys. Well, I think that's it for this time. Marc, I really want to thank you for coming and giving us like all of this filler. Like, it's so helpful not to just wonder what Microsoft's answer is for things. Thank you very, very much for being here. Andy, thank you for helping us drive this thing, and getting like the tweets and the links out like crazy like you do. I don't know how you multitask that much during these things, but you guys are awesome. And
this one was really challenging.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you all for your participation in this. It's really great.
Yeah, let's give a big shout out to everybody in the chat. This is probably one of the most active chats I think I've ever seen here. This was flying by. I might have to go back and like look at some of those conversations. So big shout out to the community for joining in and participating in this one. This one was a lot of fun.
Awesome, everybody. Well, with that being said, have a great weekend. Have a safe Halloween next week. Watch us on Twitter for the next announcement for the next deep dive we'll do. It might be about like Black Friday deals again or something like that, but we're going to have a good time doing that. So thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. Bye.